everyone, and welcome to Jennifer Broussard Art. Today we're going to candy corn land. Aren't candy corns so cute? Anyways, I traced them onto 100% cotton paper pad. Mine is the New York Central Art Supply 100% cotton watercolor block in 8x8, and I'm really excited to use my DaVinci palette. You can find the outline like this on my Patreon channel for free. Just become a free member. So let's get going. I have these 4 paintbrushes selected from my collection, a silver black velvet 6 and a 4, and then a silver white 6 and a 2, and I think that's probably going to be enough for this painting. We're going to make this really fun and simple and not complicated. I've been looking at candy corns and different kind of corn that I could, or different kinds of candy that I could paint for a Halloween theme for this month, and these guys came up and I just thought that's perfect. Easy, fun, no pressure. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go orange. Wait, how does it go? Sorry, yellow, orange, white on each one, and then we'll do the faces. I left the face off of this one so that you could just do your own face. And you could leave the faces off of these and do your own faces on these. I thought it would be kind of fun to treat them like a jack-o'-lantern and do different funny jack-o'-lantern faces. Okay, I'm going to start on this one. I'm going to wet the whole thing. Painting wet in wet is a really good skill to get. It's a great way to paint so that you can get soft lines and you can blend. When I first started watercolor painting, I didn't understand how to blend the colors so pretty, one into another. Okay, now I'm going to grab this color. This is DaVinci Vermilion Hue. And I'm going to get this color, oops. This is Aerolite Yellow FGL. It's a warm yellow. I love these paints because they reactivate so easily. I didn't even spray these. Okay, now I'm going to put in the yellow on the bottom. I'm going to do it pretty well pigmented right off the bat. And it's okay if it bleeds up into the other color, because we are going to put that other color on right away. Now I'm just rinsing my brush, and then I get most of the water out. I just go like this on a t-shirt. And I get most of the water out because there's water on the paper. Now I'm going to get some more Vermilion Hue. I'm going to dab some of this water up just because it's really puddly. You don't want a lot of puddles. And I'm going to go right over the face and everything. It's a little tricky to paint wet in wet. You do have to practice it a lot. If you don't want your paint, like one color to go into another color, you have to have sort of the same water ratio from one puddle to the next. And you have to get a feel for how it is sitting on the paper and a feel for how your paint behaves. Now I can't move on to these two at all because this is wet and it's touching both of those. So even though this is supposed to be white, I am going to put like a little bit of purple. And I think since I have a little bit of orange in there, it's going to turn just a little bit gray. And that's exactly what I want. I'm going to take this off with a damp brush. I'm just wiping the brush off onto the paper towel, and then letting the damp, almost dry brush soak up the extra fluid on the paper. Now I'm going to go ahead and get that purple again and add it, just a little bit, right on the top. Now you can wait for your painting to dry, or you can use a hair dryer or a heat gun. If you're in the US, you can get a craft tool. It looks like a tiny hair dryer, and you just dry it off. So I'll be back after I've done that. And I like how this is white, but it has a little bit of color. I'm going to go right over the face, right up to the line. And I'm using the number 6. If you're new to watercolor and you're not really sure what materials to get, this block and this little set of brushes is perfect. You can get this in a set, a 2, a 4, a 6, and an 8. And then this block I think is available. I got it on Jerry's Artorama. I bought it in the store, but I'm pretty sure you can get it online too. And I think you'll spend about $50 if you get one block and a set of these, and then whatever paints you buy. So you're in for, I don't know, $100 to get started with some really nice materials. Okay, I'm going to do the yellow. I should mention that when I traced this, there's a line right here, and I ignored it. And there are a bunch of like shadow lines coming off, and I ignored those too. And when I traced that thick black line, I traced on the outside of that so that I would get a bigger area to paint. And now I'm going to do the orange. I'm going to go right over the face. This time I'm going to stay a little bit away from the top line so that the paint can travel and not go over into the white. And get a little more pigment on there. Okay, now I'm going to get the purple, some of this. And I'm going to dry that. Now I'm going to do the same thing to the third one. Just wet the whole thing. Don't be afraid to move your pad around. Okay, I'm getting the yellow. And now the red, well, vermilion hue. It's more a reddish orange than actually red. Okay, rinsing and getting a damp brush. I've dabbed it off, and I'm going to try to get that back to where it's supposed to be. It wants to travel that way because I have a little mountain here. And you can see if you can see how the paper is warped. That's just what watercolor paper does. It's made of cotton, and when you get cotton wet, the fibers are going to swell. The thing is, when it's on a block, when it dries, it will dry flat because it is attached on all four sides. I'm going to actually put more of this color on here. You see how that shifted? That's very, very light. And normally in watercolor, you would work in layers, and we are going to do that here, but normally a first layer would be even lighter than that. But we're trying to make this one quick and fun. A little bit of purple. I'm going to try one more time to keep this from traveling too far into the white. A little bit's okay. And then if you want it to go down instead of up, let gravity work for you. Get a roll of tape and put it underneath. Now everything is dry and I've got my basic shapes on. I'm going to take a kneaded eraser and try to get off any more extra graphite that is still hanging around. If there's paint over it, it's not going to come off, and that's fine. I just want to get any extra that's on here still. Now I'm going to do a second layer of this orange, especially on this one, and I'm going to do it on dry paper. If you dry your paper with a hairdryer or anything that's hot, make sure it's cooled off before you start painting again. I'm going to do a little more on this one too. You could use any orange. Use cadmium orange, transparent orange in Winsor & Newton. You could use burnt sienna. Lighten it up. Quinacridone burnt orange. Aussie red gold would be pretty if you have Daniel Smith. Really, anything that you already have would be fine. I want these two to touch. So I'm going to fill that in right there. Now I want to do something that would make these look a little more three-dimensional. I'm going to get the same color that's on the top in a very light value, and I'm just going to paint the sides. And I'm going to stop at the orange. I'm going to do this to all of the candy corns. It's a little bit dark right there. There, that's better. And here, and now to this orange, or to the yellow, I'm going to add a little bit of the orange and do the yellow. It's a little too much. And the idea here is that when you do a shadow, you just use a little darker value, or you add a little bit of the complementary color to make that shadow. Or you can always just use a little bit of neutral tint. So I'll show you what that means. Here's some neutral tint. That's a lot. I'm just going to add a tiny bit to that orange, and it just shifted it a little tiny bit, and now I can do the orange shadow. And it just changes it just enough so that it looks a little bit more now these other lines are highlight lines, and we're going to use a white pen on those. All right, I'm going to dry this. Now I'm going to do a shadow under these guys here. I'm getting it wet with clear water, and I'm going to wet beyond where I want the shadow to go. So I'm going to go all the way over to the end, and then all the way over to the end here, and all the way down. And now I'm going to add some of this neutral tint. Right along the bottom. And to that neutral tint, I'm going to add some of this orange. And some of the yellow. I'm going to add a little more neutral tint. I want all of the colors that we used to be represented in the shadow. And that way you have color harmony. Now when that dries, I'll add an even darker line right underneath. There. While this is cooling, I got out some more of the neutral tint, and I added a little bit of purple to it. Now I'm going to go right along. I'm going to go right along this line. Now I'm going to soften that. I have water on the brush. Do the same over here. Soften it. It's just a damp brush like I showed you earlier. That got a lot of water dropped onto it. A lot of times some water will stick to the ferrule and then it decides to fall off right at the worst time. Thank you, watercolor. That looks pretty good. Okay, I'm going to let that dry, and while it's doing that, I'm going to get a number 2, and I'm going to do the face on this one. I'm going to get some more of the neutral tint. I want to have a pretty deep value, and I'm just going to fill in. I'm going to do the white of the eye with either the gel pen I'm going to get out or with some Bleedproof white. You can also use white gouache or just some opaque, like white acrylic paint or something. If you don't want to paint these, you could just use a felt pen, like a Sharpie. I'm gonna make those little cheeks red, I think. And I think this one I'm gonna do like a jack-o'-lantern. I think I'm gonna do some triangles. Do any kind of faces that you want. Cute. I'm gonna get some of the, this is called Red Rose Deep. It would also be quinacridone rose in a different brand. Some little pink cheeks. They are so cute. Before I do anything else, I want to fix this shadow. Not fix it, but I want to improve it. I want to make it really dark in here. And then dark just a little ways beyond the middle. And now with the damp brush, I'm just going to soften that very edge. There. Now to do the white highlights, I like to use Dr. P.H. Martin's Bleedproof White, or I also like this pen, just a white gel pen, and I'm going to try both to see how they compare. So this one had, I'm going to make sure it's running. Okay. Little cutie. Look how cute that is. I'm going to do the white highlight here and down here. This one has a white highlight down here and along here. Now let's try that with the white paint. It can get pretty dried up, so I just get a bunch of it. So I like to take a little bit out and put it in the lid. And reconstitute it as much as you want, and then you can paint on your highlights. I'm going to add one in here. I don't remember if there was one there or not. And as that dries, it looks a little bit gray, so I'm going to add a little more. Make sure it's nice and white. And I'm going to add a little more here. I think there was one here too. So in case you are new to blocks of paper, they're not a pad of paper. They are stuck together with glue on each side. And if you don't know that, you just take a knife or a palette knife or, you know, anything that's thin, a butter knife, and you put it in the little opening and then you scrape it along all of the edges and you're cutting it off. And then your next page is revealed. Ta-da! These are so cute. I really enjoyed this simple and fun little project, and I hope you did too. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.